All right, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem Racha HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of great millstone who rule well, and salutations to you, sincere, hopeful, elect Akim, pushing the word of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahawashi in spirit and in truth. So coming back with another lesson. I got a little bit of this video here I want to play, and it's from the Danny Haifong YouTube channel, and as you see, the title says Trump is done. Iran and Venezuela break U.S. war machine. All right, featuring Mohammed Morandi, all right, which is I believe a historian from Iran, or a professor, you know. So there's something interesting that Morandi mentioned, okay, and it's biblical, okay, it's biblical because it's literally gonna happen according to Bible prophecy. All right, so here we go.
Because the Americans want, people to lean towards these countries, the same countries that are transporting oil to Israel, the same countries that are, their money goes into the United States, and but people are seeing through it now. People see reality. And those who don't see the reality, they don't want to see reality. And it doesn't matter if Christ comes tomorrow, these people are not going to change. They'll wage war against Christ, the very same Christian Zionists or whoever. So
you hear that? He said if the anointed, which we know as Yahawashi, if Yahawashi was to return tomorrow, these people, all right, that are blind, willingly blind to reality, pretty much people that side with the small hats, people that side with the EU, NATO, all right, those countries that want to keep, the hegemony going, all right, the U.S. hegemony, or just Edomite supremacy, commit all these war crimes and just crimes in general, and jack the world up, pollute the world, destroy the world. You got people that know that the world is being destroyed via the people that's in power, yet they don't care and would enjoy, a beast system to govern all of humanity for all eternity. You got people that don't mind that, okay? But what he said was those people would be the same people that would fight against the Lord when he returns. All right, and literally those people are going to attempt to fight against the Lord, and they're going to lose miserably. All right, so let me play that one more time, and then I'm going to edify with scriptures through the Spirit.
Goes into the United States, and but people are seeing through it now. People see reality. And those who don't see the reality, they don't want to see reality. And it doesn't matter if Christ comes tomorrow, these people are not going to change. They'll wage war against Christ, the very same Christian Zionists or whoever. So, those who are determined to have their eyes closed, their eyes will remain closed. But the rest of the world, they're waking up, and that's a good thing. Yeah.
All right. So they'll wage war against the anointed. And that's in the scriptures. So here we go. Revelation 17, verse 12. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. All right. And the 10 horns here in Revelation 17 and 12 represent the EU. All right. The European Union, which more members are currently in the EU. But it initially started off with 10 members. Okay. Which, those 10 members was Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, West Germany. Okay. Actually, it was 6 that founded the EEC, which was the European Economic Community. Okay. Before that, it was the ECSC, which was the European Coal and Steel Community. Then it went to the EEC, which is the European Economic Community. but originally it was only six parties. All right, and then it increased, over the years to what they have now. All right, so verse 12 again, it says, Revelation 17:12, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, all right, the EU, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. And so that 1 hour represents 42 years, because in 1958 is when, or actually 1951, you had the Treaty of Paris that took place, which was pretty much the ball that got everything rolling for the ECSC, and then EEC, and then the EU. Okay, that all started in 1951. All right, the Treaty of Paris. All right, so continuing on, it says, these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Okay, so the beast being NATO, the military alliance and agreements that, those European countries, a lot of the European countries are part of NATO. A lot of those EU nations or EU countries are part of NATO. So they've received some sort of power, being that, they got the big dog NATO that they can rely on militarily in case of an emergency. All right, so they receive power 1 hour with the beast. It says, these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. All right, so the EU and NATO, these shall make war with the Lamb. Okay, those crazy ass bugged out Europeans are gonna literally make war with Yahawashi when it returns, and that's what Morandi said. All right, that professor, he said, these the people that don't want to see reality, are the same people that would wage war against the anointed if he returned tomorrow. Okay, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. Okay, so the elect, all right, will be, with Yahweh Shem Yahawashi. All right, the elect is going to be delivered, going to be beamed up, going to be extracted from this earth. All right, and drawn up into the chariots. All right, and then ultimately be with Yahawashi. Okay, and that's who's called and chosen and faithful. All right, the men that's laboring and hazarding their lives to do so, as the Elder Malcolm in Chicago, says. All right, when he opens up with his videos. All right, so like, bear with me 1 second. All right, got to charge this phone up. So that's who's gonna be victorious. All right, Yahawashi is gonna be victorious. But you literally have these bugged out ass heathen that really think they're gonna be able to have some type of progress or victory in waging war against Yahawashi. It's crazy, man. These people are crazy. All right, so continuing to my next precept. This is Daniel 2 and verse, I'm going to start at 34. All right, I start at 33. Okay, this is going into the statute or the idol that Daniel had saw. So verse 33, it says, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Okay. And that part of the idol represents the Roman Empire. Okay. Which has been revived as America. Okay. It has or the revived Roman Empire, the America and also the EU. Okay. Because NATO is spearheaded by America. That's why America, via Donald Trump, starting in his first term as president number 45, that's why he was getting on those EU nations, or that are a part of NATO, to actually start paying more money, 5% of GDP, to help assist in paying for NATO. So the Roman Empire is revived today via NATO, EU, America. Okay, it's all a conglomerate. So those the feet being part of clay is in specific referring to those EU nations, because back in 2015, 16, 17, you had the EU breaking up with Britain. You had the Brexit, which was Britain exiting out of the EU. Okay. You had Greece. They was going through it financially. They had bank runs and all kind of stuff over in Greece early in 2011, 12, 13, things like that. So part of those EU nations were strong, and then part were weak, being that they were clay. All right, and clay in iron, do not mix. All right. Verse 34 says, thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and break them in pieces. Okay, so that stone represents Yahawashi. All right. And when Yahawashi returns, the kingdom, or the part of the statute that's going to be in rulership, is going to be the feet, and the toes. All right, being NATO, EU, America, spearheaded by America, in which he's coming back to destroy utterly, the remnant of that statue. Okay, because each portion of the statue had a specific time to rule. All right, and in the end of the world, as it says in 2nd Ezra 6:9, Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So upon Yahweh's return, all right, upon his arrival to earth, the people that's going to be in rulership, or the portion of the statue that's going to be in rulership, is going to be the feet, which is Edomites. All right. Verse 35, it says, then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together. All right. So all kingdoms and all rulerships is going to be broken up. All right. Now, the Edomites have, global dominance and rulership, and these other kingdoms have a lesser form of rulership, but nevertheless, they still, have sovereign governments and things of that nature that have to be destroyed right along with Esau. Okay. And that's what Yahawashi is coming to do. It says, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Okay, so the scriptures tell you that the knowledge of the Lord is going to cover the earth. Let me see. Let me try to find that. Yeah, here we go. Habakkuk, Isaiah 11 and 9. It says, "They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea." Okay, so in the kingdom of heaven, the knowledge of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is going to be everywhere. You know, it's going to be everywhere. Just how we just had a so-called Christmas, right? And this bugs me out because you got people that come here. You got Polynesians, all right, that have come to America from whatever Pacific island, they're native to. Now on their Pacific island, they don't even, not all, but a lot of them don't even celebrate so-called Christmas. They, celebrate whatever customs they have. And then they come here to America and in no time, they talking about Merry Christmas and celebrating Christmas and they just become a straight Babylonian, or some die-head East Indian, a Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, don't know nothing about Christmas. They come here to America and they spirit is invested in Christmas, like, that's been a part of their life, their whole life. That just trips me out, man. But that shows that the knowledge of wickedness it blankets the earth currently. So in the kingdom of heaven, the same way people, get that those the bubbles in that tingly feeling in a body when Christmas is coming around or whatever dumbass holiday they celebrate. Well, people is gonna be excited about the Passover, keeping the Passover. All right, the same way people feel some joy about the so-called holidays here in America. Well, it's gonna be even more joyous to celebrate high holy days contained in the scriptures when we're in the kingdom of heaven, because the knowledge of wickedness is going to be snuffed out of the earth. Okay, so Habakkuk 2 and 14, it says, "For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea." All right, so the knowledge of Yahweh is going to be everywhere, and that's going to be on the account of the nation of Israel being a nation of kings and priests that will officiate the office of priests. All right, and pretty much ensure that the heathen keep our customs and ways. All right, they will not be on our level, but they will be held to the standard of keeping the law. All right, through force. Now, I'm gonna grab this here in Second Esdras, and this is going into Yahawashi coming back in a chariot along with the angels from outer space. So I'm gonna jump down to verse 5. Second Esdras 13 and 5. It says, "And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together the multitude of men." All right, and these are the idiotic armies. All right, the bug outs that's gonna be on a kamikaze mission, a suicide mission, trying to fight, Yahawashi and the angels, Yahawashi and the angels, just to be blown up. Wappo zappo. All right. Just to be zapped. All right. By a right aiming thunderbolt. It says, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue that man that came out of the sea. All right. Yahawashi. All right. The sea representing the waters and outer space. Okay. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. Talking about the chariot being so massive that it looked like a mountain. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. So Ezra's is looking around like, okay, surely one of these mountains close by is missing, and that's what the Lord is riding upon. All right, but it wasn't that; it was a chariot. Verse 8, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. All right, all these armies, all right, these fighter jets, these fighter pilots, drone operators, all right, you name it. They scared out of their mind, but the Lord got the spirit on them to fulfill his will and continue to fight. All right. And lo, verse 9, he saw the violence of the multitude that came. He neither, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been, a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. All right, so the concentrated laser fire that's going to be coming from the chariots is going to be zapping, these militaries, whether they're in tanks, whether they're in drones, whether they're in fighter pilots, whether they're in just boots on the ground, you name it. All right, any type of vessel or vehicle that they're in, or jet, plane, or standing armies. No matter what type of defense mechanisms they have, when the Lord lets that concentrated fire, that laser beam, when he lets that go, man, it's gonna turn things into a dust and smell of smoke. You're gonna see a zap, pow, something blow up, and it's just gonna turn into to dust. All right, just how when you got over in the Middle East, you got a windstorm or a dust storm, should I say? And it's just a ball of like in the movie The Mummy. They should show that, when that mummy would wake up and shit and be all mad. He'd had that dust storm go. All right, so that's gonna be some of the conditions in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, being Saudi Arabia, and there ain't nothing but dust out there. All right, nothing but sand. So it's gonna be the perfect place for this to take place. Okay, a big old dust storm or confusion. Evaporated human flesh and bones and blood and all that, just at an elemental stage, mixed with dust and sand, and just it's gonna be crazy to see, man. It's gonna be crazy to see. All right, Abaratazar, we actually get to see it from an aerial view by way of a chariot. All right. Verse 11, it says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight. All right, so these bugged out, military members. All right, that's going to be forced to receive that judgment. and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. All right, so at the end of it all, dust and smell of smoke. You couldn't tell what was what. You know what you actually saw as a fighter jet, or a runway, or a standing army, some tanks, soldiers in formation. All that's going to turn into dust and smell of smoke. All right, the Lord is not playing any games when He returns. Okay, so let's see. Let me play this one more time.
That are, their money goes into the United States, and but people are seeing through it now. People see reality, and those who don't see the reality, they don't want to see reality. And it doesn't matter if Christ comes tomorrow; these people are not going to change. They'll wage war against Christ, the very same Christian Zionists or whoever. So those who are determined to have their eyes closed, their eyes will remain closed. But the rest of the world, they're waking up, and that's a good thing.
All right. So with that, Lord willing, this was edifying. Until next time, Shalom.